You were right. You had the numbers, the reasoning, the quiet certainty that you had checked this twice, and the room went with the other person anyway, the one everybody likes. You have felt this, a meeting where the better argument lost to the warmer smile, a decision that went to the person who was confident and pleasant, not the person who was correct. You walked out replaying your slides in your head, wondering what you missed. You missed nothing. That is the unsettling part. So why does being right lose to being liked? Not sometimes, not only in badly run companies, structurally, quietly, almost every day. Why does the office keep choosing the person people enjoy over the person people should believe? The easy answer is to call it politics. But politics is just the name we give to a mechanism we can feel and cannot see. And this particular mechanism is older than your office. It is older than offices. It is running in the first half second of every interaction you have ever had. Here is what your brain actually does when it meets a person. It does not ask, first, is this one right? It asks two much older questions in order. Question 1, are you a friend or a threat? Question 2, can you act on it? Warmth, then competence. Intent, then ability. Psychologists Susan Fiske, Amy Cuddy, and Peter Glick spent years mapping how we size up other people, and they found we compress almost everyone onto those two dimensions. How warm are you? How capable are you? But the two are not weighed equally. Warmth is judged first, it is judged faster, and it carries more weight in the impression that sticks. Cuddy puts it bluntly, we decide whether to trust someone before we decide whether to respect them. Think about why that ordering makes sense from the brain's point of view. For almost all of human history, the urgent question about a stranger was never, how skilled are they? It was, is this stranger going to hurt me? A warm fool is safe. A cold genius might not be. So the mind reads intent before ability, every single time. Because getting intent wrong used to be the kind of mistake you did not survive. Now carry that wiring into a conference room. You walk in as the cold genius. Precise, correct, a little impatient with people who are slower than you. Your competence is high, but you have quietly failed question 1. And here is the part most sharp people never see coming. Failing the warmth question does not leave you at neutral. It reaches backward and poisons the reading of everything else. Back in 1946, a psychologist named Solomon Asch read people a list of traits describing a person, intelligent, skillful, industrious, and so on, and asked them to form an impression. For half of them, one word in the middle of the list was warm. For the other half, that one word was cold. Nothing else changed, and the entire impression flipped. The warm person came out generous, wise, good-humored. The cold person, the exact same skills on paper, came out calculating and shrewd and unpleasant. One word ran the whole picture. Warm and cold, Asch said, are what he called central traits. They do not sit quietly in the list with the others. They reach out and recolor every other thing about you. So when you are right but cold, the room does not experience a correct, slightly chilly person. It experiences a person whose correctness is probably self-serving. Your best trait gets read through your worst one. Do you see the trap closing? The sharper you are, the more the coldness has to work with. And all of this happens fast. How fast? Faster than you can finish a single sentence. In 2006, two researchers, Janine Willis and Alexander Todorov, flashed photographs of strangers' faces at people for 1/10 of a second, 100 milliseconds, and asked them to rate each face on trustworthiness. Then they let other people look at the same faces for as long as they liked. The judgments barely moved. 1/10 of a second was enough to decide whether a face could be trusted. All that extra time mostly did was make people more confident in the snap decision they had already made. Sit with the arithmetic hidden in that. Being right takes minutes. You have to lay out the case, show the numbers, walk everyone through the logic. Being liked, or disliked, lands in 1/10 of a second, before you have even finished sitting down. By the time you open your mouth to be correct, the room has already answered the older question about you. You are not starting from zero. You are climbing out of a hole you never knew you were standing in. Which brings us to the study that says the whole thing out loud. In 2005, two researchers named Tiziana Casciaro and Miguel Sousa Lobo published work in the Harvard Business Review under a title that ought to be nailed to every office wall: Competent Jerks, Lovable Fools, and the Formation of Social Networks. They asked a plain question. When people are free to choose who they actually work with, what drives the choice? You would hope the answer is competence. It is not. Likability was the dominant factor. Given a real choice, people flock to the lovable fool. Pleasant, warm, not especially good at the job, and they quietly route around the competent jerk. And here was the sharp finding. A small gain in likability moved people more than a comparable gain in competence. A little extra warmth outran a lot of extra skill. So be honest with yourself for a second. On your own team, Who do you actually go to when you are stuck? The brilliant one, who makes you feel slightly stupid for asking? Or the decent one, who makes you feel fine and only knows about 80% of the answer? You already know. Everyone routes around the jerk, including you. You have done it this week. Now here is the trap built specifically for the people who are usually right. Being right, out loud, in a room, tends to come out sounding like criticism. And criticism has a strange side effect that has been measured too. In 1983, a researcher named Teresa Amabile ran a study she titled plainly, "Brilliant but Cruel." She had people read 2 reviews of the same book. One was harsh and negative, one was warm and positive. Same book, supposedly different critics. The readers rated the negative reviewer as more intelligent, more expert, more competent, and less likable. Being harsh reads as smart. It also reads as cold. You can have the reputation, or you can have the warmth. The room hands you one and takes the other. Look at the bind that puts a competent person in. When you are the one who is right, who catches the flaw, corrects the figure, explains why it will not work, you are, in the room's eyes, being negative, which buys you a name for competence and costs you warmth in the very same breath. The plain act of being right sharpens your competence signal and dims your warmth signal at the same instant. You are paying for correctness in the exact currency the room values most, and correctness cannot pay you back because of a mismatch you have probably never named. Warmth is instant, visible, and felt in the body. Correctness is slow, invisible, and has to be checked. And a meeting has no time to check. Nobody is going to quietly rerun your model while you are still talking. So the room falls back on the one thing it can feel in real time. Who do I trust here? Trust roots through relationship, not through logic. The warm colleague's rough guess gets adopted on the spot. The cold expert's exact answer gets thanked and tabled for review. It compounds upward, too, into the parts of work that decide your whole career. Think about what a manager is really doing when they promote someone or hand them an ambiguous, high-stakes, high-trust call. They are not grading a test. They are asking themselves, can I be comfortable with this person holding something uncertain on my behalf? That is a warmth question, wearing a competence costume, which is how being liked quietly becomes being trusted, and being trusted quietly becomes being promoted, and how an office ends up run by the people who were easy to be around, not necessarily the people who were right. Before this hardens into cynicism, though, notice the genuinely uncomfortable part. None of this is a flaw in your coworkers. It is standard equipment in every human head, including yours. You run it in the elevator, in the hiring call, in the very meeting you walked out of annoyed. You trusted the warm one over the correct one, and you would do it again tomorrow without noticing. That is the machine. Not a conspiracy of shallow people, but a very old piece of wiring that reads intent before ability in a tenth of a second, and then quietly colors everything that comes after. In the world that built it, that instinct kept you alive. In a conference room, it means the better argument regularly loses to the warmer face, while everyone present is completely certain they were being perfectly rational. So go back to that meeting, the one where you were right and the room went the other way, and you spent the evening wondering what you did wrong. Nothing was wrong with your logic. The room was simply answering a different question than the one you were answering. You were answering, who is right? They were answering, who do we trust? 2 questions. They were never the same question. They were never going to be. You cannot switch the machine off. You could not switch off your own if you tried, but you can finally watch it run, in the room and in yourself. And the moment you can see it, the sting quietly changes shape. It was never that you were not good enough. It was that being right and being liked are 2 different games, and the room, in a tenth of a second, was keeping score of the other one.